I am Pieter, I'm from Holland, and I came to know about Oroville in the spring of 1969 in an article in a magazine. In there was written an address to which I wrote, and the reply was that I had to send a postcard picture of myself to the mother in Pondicherry, which I did. Then in July 1969 I got permission from mother to come and live in Oroville. It took me a couple of months to get organized and to go away because I was involved in a few things in Holland, and finally I arrived here in March 1970. I started to live in Aspiration and I started working with Vincenzo, who then had his workshop Toujours Mieux. And finally I became a driver and I was involved in transport because there was barely any transport in those days. People had to go to Pondi, I had to come back to Pondi, supplies had to be picked up in Pondicherry, etc, etc, etc. After 1.5 years I was asked to take care of the tractor service, which was centered in Promise. And so I moved from Aspiration to Promise, and I took care of 2 tractors and a Unimog, and I was involved in agricultural transport and also in plowing, etc, 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 and everything that pertains. And out of that naturally flowed the foundation of the workshop Abri, which we started building in April 1972 and was finished somewhere in November, December 1972. Mother has given it the name Abri on the 1st of January 1973. And I was involved in the workshop for a while, aside from mechanical repairs, the motorbikes, etc., the tractor service. We also started to take care of pumps and water supply, etc., etc., etc. And for a couple of reasons I got fed up with Abri, and I moved to Kottegraai, where I became involved in handicrafts, which I've done for a number of years. And in 1974 I started Anguira's Garden as an orchard, because then I had met a girl and she got pregnant and we needed a house. Up till that time I was living in Kottegraai in a capsule. So we founded Anguira's Garden and our first child was born, and again we planted trees, we got a pond together there, and then finally, after a few years, people asked me to take care of Abri again, which I've been doing up till 1983. In the meanwhile, just because of my affinity with green work and also with the water, and because my work with Abri, I started looking at birds, and then people from the green belt asked me if I could make a comparison study of how the situation was in Oroville before the reforestation and after reforestation. That's the thing I did. That meant that I go out of Oroville and look at fields, count birds, and then go to the forested areas in Oroville and count birds there too. That resulted in a paper which I presented in Bombay in December '83, and it was well received, and people were really surprised by the work we were doing. There was a gathering from ecological scientists from all over the world, and yeah, our work, what we were doing here in Oroville, was new to them, and nobody apparently had actually done such a job. And so it made me feel very proud, and which was very good for my ego. And yeah, so then after a while, yeah, my bird work continued, and but then again I stopped Abri, and I also left Kottegraai and went to Centerfield, and got involved in handicrafts, and got involved also in computer work with mapping Oroville via a designing program on the computer. And that is basically what I've been doing, and constantly I went out into the fields looking at birds. At the same time I was doing other stuff, and yeah, keeping myself out of trouble. I left Oroville in 1990, because at that time I had growing up kids and they needed to go to school and they needed a proper education. It was not to be found here in Oroville. And they had to go to Code Canal, and the money therefore was not to be found in Oroville. And I went to Holland, and I have found the money there, and was able to put my kids to school, to university, etc. And now I'm back after an absence of about 20 years, just to see if Oroville is still there for me. And so I'm looking around, and I'm still very much undecided about Oroville, about the situation here. There are things I like very much. Other situations I don't particularly go for. Then I think about things Mother has said. I think about the whole scene with the guest houses, because I know Mother was very adamant that anybody who had no permission to stay in Oroville should not stay the night in Oroville. In the meanwhile, we've hundreds and hundreds of guests coming to Oroville every year, and that is a situation I'm not happy about. Other situations are okay. I mean, the green work is still going on. Education made a big step forward, I've seen, and but for me to say anything about Oroville as a negative or positive is very difficult at the moment. Well, I guess that is all about I have to say.